Just weeks away from a historic summit between U.S. President Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin, and Russia is already firing a shot across the bow.
Good evening tonight from Geneva, Switzerland, on the eve of a high-stakes summit between President Biden and Russia's Vladimir Putin.
He is one day away from what could be the biggest foreign policy test of his presidency.
President Biden set to meet with Vladimir Putin tomorrow in Geneva.
Yeah, this is a bit of a risky meeting for the White House. It risks elevating Putin.
All right, so there you have it. Reporters shouting questions, but we did see a handshake, a pretty significant handshake, Clarissa, from these two leaders.
The local media, covering these things, because right now the national media, it's like the Super Bowl right now with Biden meeting Putin. Meanwhile, millions of people are about to be evicted. A lot states are already taking away unemployment from people prematurely. Houselessness is exploding all over this country and is going to explode further after the eviction moratorium ends. But Russia and Putin and Biden and tough talk. Is the local media covering these types of issues here?
I think it's worth noting that a lot of certain local media outlets here are venture capitalist projects. So, I'm sure that has absolutely nothing to do with what they do and don't cover.
The biggest issues we have too is abuse and violence in the shelter system, and theft and fraud by staff in the shelter system, and there's no lawyers that are doing that work. And I love y'all, and I just support anybody that is willing to put in the time to make connections on the ground, because I think a lot of other media outlets, they show up, they do a story, and then they disappear for 6 months. It's because people don't make connections. They pick somebody who's reputable, who they think will be a good source. They pick a Villanova professor and they talk to them, and that's it. Yeah. And it's destructive. Absolutely. Generally destructive.
And so I think that absolutely we need a re-education. And so that is in the classroom, but it's also with the press. And so you are doing that work, and you're doing the Lord's work. Yeah. So thank you so much for that.
In the beginning, right, when this first happened, they said, oh, a murder happened. Police involved shooting happened. What is her address? She was a suspect. Her name wasn't even out there. And that was that, right? No more. Nobody came to the family. Then we got a press conference, right? So Bianca, all the family is around. Bianca and the family is speaking and stuff like that. But they literally cherry picked little snippets of things being said, right? They chopped it up so much where you didn't even none of the full conversation was ever spoken about what happened, and trying to find out what happened and stuff like that, right? So then you fast forward to when everything blows up and everybody want to be down here now. Now we have the media here want to interview us and stuff like that, when before y'all was on the police side.
Because it seems Biden, the media certainly, they're still fixated on Trump. They're fixated on, the Super Bowl, Biden going to Russia.
They're all promoting distractions. They're distracting from the real issues. Okay, the real issues is rebuild America from the bottom up. Okay, not the top down, the bottom up. Okay, don't trickle down theory, trickle up.
The way that Philadelphia, the way that we have sort of conditioned ourselves to live with this is to dehumanize folks that are victim to this type of behavior and victim to this erasure and this gentrification. I mean, everybody wants a feel-good story, so that'll draw the media in, that'll draw local media in, during the height of the pandemic, hardcore quarantine, there was so much bad news, and people with this luxurious access to consume media constantly were so inundated with the bad news that the type of work that I was doing and we were doing through Club Sandwich, it should be bad news. It's bad news that we have to get out here and when we should be quarantining and try to address this need around us, because the systems that we have in place are failing, and it's flipped into a sweet good news white savior type story, little blonde girl faces the pandemic, rides her bike with sandwiches, and that's the story, but that's not the truth.
Once the pandemic hit, I couldn't do nothing. Work stopped, and I couldn't pay bills. I was struggling to feed myself. So I got on the streets and I started living in the park. And the park been my home since.
And what about the media? Do journalists come out here to talk to you guys? see what your situation is, cover it in any way?
Nobody come out here and talk about our lives. Nobody come out here and hear our stories, because at the end of the day, they think the stories is all nothing but irrelevant, when it's not. All stories are meant to be heard. All stories will help us get something better. Our stories will help us survive longer. And I appreciate y'all for coming out here and interviewing people. I really do, because it's letting our voices be heard.
We're in a really unique position in West Virginia to actually take over the party and make a change. You know, if Manchin stops getting votes, Manchin can't win. And a lot of people have started withholding votes for Manchin. That's how he damn near lost in the last election. There's not really anybody that, it's all fluff pieces. Manchin, got caught petting a dog today, or, whatever bullshit story it is for the day. But it's not really, there's not been any story about the party issue. It's been in a couple newspapers, here and there, and like this big at the bottom corner of the back page or whatever, but there's not been any real reporting on it.
There's a large issue too in like nonprofits these days, because anybody can open a nonprofit, and a lot of rich people do now, and there's like this whole nonprofit industrial complex that allows and runs candidates these days, progressive candidates which are funded by billionaires or funded by corporations, and like a 501c3 or a 501c4 doesn't necessarily have to disclose its donors. I don't think they do a very adequate job of covering much of anything in this city. I feel like there is, specifically in Philadelphia, a concerted effort from specific individuals to network with local journalists and to ensure that whatever political agenda that they're pushing for, which is generally a neoliberal one.
Liz Hirsch said that they can expect to go from the hotel into permanent housing, and that didn't happen. They put them in the hotel. They understaffed the caseworkers that were supposed to be going out there. And then when they ran out of money, rather than applying for the other money that was there, they just cut off the hotels.
Can you kind of talk about the local media here?
I mean, do we see local media out here right now? I've been out here since 7 o'clock. I've seen you, the Inquirer, and WHYY. Where's Fox? Where's ABC? Where's NBC? Where's Telemundo? They're all out here. They're all in the city, but where are they out here covering the stuff that really matters, right? But they'll be reporting on Biden going to Russia to meet with Putin.
What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I am fixing to be homeless. And I never dreamed in all my life I would ever be homeless. I've worked my fucking ass off my whole goddamn life to make sure that I had a roof over my head, and that fucking trailer was good enough for me.
Nobody in the news media cares about this. Why would we care about them little poor people? Let's just send them on their way.
That's something too from our perspective, because we're completely independent media and we purposefully focus on stories that aren't covered or aren't getting enough coverage.
There's also a lot of pathologizing that goes into, I'm going to tell, say I'm a journalist or a corporate reporter or something, I'm going to tell your story for you in the way that I want it told. So the hillbilly, the poor hillbilly, dirt-faced coal miner, whatever, that's a problem. That's a problem that we have to solve, right? And it's very paternalistic. So residents and Eastern Kentuckians in general are hardly ever afforded the opportunity to tell our own stories in our own ways and use those stories to claim our dignity and to build momentum for organized power. These long-standing, centuries long-standing narratives about Eastern Kentuckians and who we are benefit the rich and the powerful. It has a large part of how the folks that are presently in power have found themselves there and maintain that power. So putting the control of storytelling back into the hands of folks whose stories it is to tell is a really vital step forward of breaking that long-standing power hold of dehumanizing a region so that you can pave the way for economic domination.